Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon podcast. We're excited to be with you, really getting stuck into the training at the moment. Lots going on, lots to share. As usual, I'm joined by Shona Hendrick. Shona, how are you?
Yeah, good, Dev. Excited to be back here again and be diving into where we should be at this phase in our ultra training.
Good. Quick, before we get on, quick little fun fact I like to throw in from time to time. Fun fact about Shona, and I know I'm going to give her trouble here anyway, but Shona has or is one of the very few people who play golf who's actually hit a hole in one. And as much as I like to give Shona trouble that she hit that hole in one from the ladies' tee, I have to still say it's still a hole in one, and it's a hell of a feat. So yeah, that's Sean. Give us a quick rundown on how that happened.
Yeah, that was fun, Dev. Yeah, I was going to say, have you hit a hole in one? So no, look,
No, touche.
it was an awesome day. It was December 2023. I mean, that's the ball that I used. Oh, there we go. I haven't got rid of that. Obviously, I didn't play the rest of the course or the round with that ball. Put that ball away. Par 3 on the 9th at Benoni Lake Country Club, and just one of those days where, or one of those holes where you hit it sweet, and I was like, oh, going to be so chuffed with that. My friend that I was playing with, Dean, was like, Shone, you're going to be so chuffed. That's puts it in for birdie. And I was like, oh, over the moon. Walk all the way down to the green, and I get there and I can't see my ball anyway. And I was like, oh, and I'm not a great golfer. So for me, I was like, I can't believe it. This ball's rolled into the water. Like, I didn't hit it that hard. And then walk down and see it in the hole. I mean, absolutely ecstatic. I celebrated like I'd won the World Cup, and it was quite cool because my dad had actually hit a hole in one 3 months before that. So I don't know what was going on in the Hendricks clan, but it was a cool day. So probably my one and only. So and hopefully, luckily as well, the clubhouse wasn't very full that day. So that was good. But yes, that was a good day.
Awesome stuff, and it's definitely one of those things, I guess, that keeps you coming back and wanting to play more because it can be done.
Stupid game.
Good stuff. Before we get into sort of today, we're going to really be focusing on sort of where we should be at this phase and sort of how to manage our load in that. But before, I just want to quickly mention for those of you who did run this past weekend, the Johnson and Crane or Acacia marathons, and use that as your qualifier and hopefully did qualify. Congratulations. It's one less thing to worry about now in the journey for the next couple of weeks towards Oceans Ultra. And obviously coming up next week, up here in Gauteng at least, is the Joburg City Marathon. So for those of you who are running, hope you are in the taper phase at the moment. You definitely should be recovering well ahead of the weekend. Good luck if you are using it as your qualifier. Sean, I think to get us started, maybe diving straight in at this stage, I mean, we're talking about these marathons and that, and in the training phase where we are at the moment, where should we be? What should we be doing right now?
Awesome, Dev. Yeah, thanks. Exactly. And I'm so glad you mentioned those races and if people have qualified, because I think let's break it up again into those two sort of factors. So if you have already qualified, so not this past weekend or not coming up, if you qualified, let's say at Cape Town or a while back, you've obviously, you've got some time. You don't need to be really building into like a huge block of training at the moment. You're building consistency. You're still just getting a little bit of a base going. Okay. And so I think that's really the first thing to note is that you still have, you've got a lot of time. Not that everyone doesn't have a lot of time, but you're still just getting building blocks on top of each other. And so that's a really great place to be. If you are still to qualify, if you still got your qualifier coming up, you are very likely in a pretty big block of training. You're probably doing some, if you're qualifying in Feb, perhaps end of Feb, you're building into some longer runs now, really some peak kind of training. And so that's really, really important as well, that you make sure that you stay injury free, okay, and that you're getting enough recovery in that time. Let's say you're one of the ones who've just qualified this weekend, then you are going to be having a recovery, right? So you are not going to be jumping straight back into training. You're going to take at least a full week off running. And I know that is a swear word for runners, and in particular marathoners and ultra runners. And so please, guys, it's really important that you guys make sure that you have that recovery. Okay. And so those of you who are in that qualifying phase or just qualified, you are a little bit I want to say ahead of the curve, and I don't mean that in any negative way for the guys who have already qualified, but just that your recovery now or after your qualifier is absolutely key to ensure that you don't get injured leading into the next phase. Overall, whether you've qualified or not, we really want you to have your consistency down right now. Okay, so you want to be training consistently. You want to be training, the number of times a week that you normally train. You want to be tapping into some of that strength training, and you want to generally be picking up some of that volume as we're going. Okay, so the mileage will be heading up, but again, we're going to dive a little bit further into this podcast as to how we manage that with the recovery. And you might be diving into a couple of hill repeats as an example, some intervals, depending on the plan that you're on. Of course, we do want to be building some strength, right? So not strength, we're not talking gym and muscle strength. We're talking running strength. And so you might be perhaps doing some 1 minute hill repeats in your weeks as well. So that is really key. And guys, this is just one thing I want to mention now. This phase, we're essentially we're 9 weeks out. Yeah, we're week 3, we're 9 weeks out from race day. This is the time for you to sort out any injuries, right? So any niggles that you have, this is the time to get it sorted out. Okay, if there's going to be time that you need to take time off from running to sort out an injury, now is the time. We've got 9 weeks. We want to be as close to injury and preferably injury free on race day, and especially coming into the next kind of blocks of training, which will be bigger kind of volume. So take the time off, go see your physios, go see your massage therapists, make sure that we're getting those niggles out of the way. There is no championness of pushing through that pain. Okay, I absolutely can't stand that glorifying pain and no pain, no gain. Sort those issues out now so that you come to race day and the next block of training that you're sorted and ready to take those on.
Shona, yeah, really important there. And I mean, like you said, there's no point in glorifying it and losing time much later on in the training when it really counts. Shona, kind of maybe not on the injury side of things, but I mean, we're getting a little bit of feedback from time to time now, again, whether people have qualified or not. In the phase of training that we are now, people are doing a little bit of volume. You say we are picking up volume. And some of the feedback is, I'm feeling a little bit tired. Is that normal? Is it something we should expect?
Yes. Okay. Theme of this podcast is it depends, right? We should call this podcast It Depends. But it does depend a little bit, okay? But it is normal to feel slightly more fatigued or tired, okay? But that's also not an excuse to sort of go, I'm not feeling tired and fatigued and just keep powering through, okay? So that is also, we just want to make sure that we clarify that it is normal. This is why we build the plans in the 4-week cycles, right? So we've built for 3 weeks now, and we're going to go into a recovery week next week, which is really, they always seem to come at just the right time when you're feeling really tired. And so that is good news. Okay. And so that's important. And we definitely, next week's podcast, we're going to dive into all sorts of things with regards to recovery and your recovery week. So be sure to tune into that. But yes, you have done hopefully a good block of 3 weeks of really building up your mileage, perhaps tapping into a couple of interval sessions. And so that 3-week build will elicit that you're feeling a bit tired. Okay. You remember the body breaks down when we're training, when we're running. And so we have to now give it some time to recover and start to feel better. So you might be feeling a little bit tired, and that is okay. Just remember that the meat of your training, the meat of that mileage and volume is still yet to come. And so we do want to go into that recovery week next week and get ourselves sorted so that we can then build into the next block of training. But guys, the key thing here is still that we're wanting to look at consistency. Okay, it's about that consistency. It's never just around one training run. We're building blocks on top of each other, right? So it's session after session. So think about what you're doing today as a session. Think about what you're doing tomorrow as a session and a block, and we're building that on top. Think about that rest day. That's also a session and a block, and we're just getting stronger and stronger. But the absolute key thing here is that you really, really want to make sure that you're listening to your body. Okay, so if you are feeling tired, try and listen to that. Don't listen to every single other runner that's in your running club, that's on the road when you're running races as long runs. Don't be silly. Listen to your body, and this is why you have a structured plan. This is where that structured plan is like gold, because you have that and you can go, okay, if everyone else is saying they're going to go run another 3 hours tomorrow and you're feeling tired, or they're going to go do those hill repeats and you're feeling tired, you can go, okay, my plan says I'm actually doing an hour and a half tomorrow, right? And so that's where that plan comes in and is so valuable. Again, though, that plan isn't concrete. If you are feeling a little bit tired, you can adapt things and move things around to make sure that you can at least recover a little bit and not get injured from just being overly trained and overly tired.
Yeah, Sean, and I like that you kind of alluded there to sort of what people are saying the whole time. And I know you and I recently did a race as a training run together, and you just hear all the advice. Everyone's an expert. And one thing that really stood out to me is the amount of racing people are doing. So people are training, they tell you what their goal is, and then it's just this, I'm doing this half marathon this weekend, next weekend another 30K, somewhere there's a marathon. And it's just, you kind of think to yourself, well, guys, just calm down, hang on a little bit. There's a fine line when we're talking about balancing mileage and recovery, so volume and recovery. Do you want to maybe just elaborate on that a little bit, maybe?
If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury-free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsay and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course we want to get better. So we are doing essentially what we call progressive overload. Okay. So we are pushing the body a little bit, and you'll see that in your training plans. You might have started perhaps with a 1 hour 30 long run, and then the following week is a 1 hour 45. We are pushing that line because that's how we get a stimulus and essentially what we call super compensation. That's how we get stronger. But we only get stronger with that when we're recovering, okay? And so it's really, really key that you don't just jump into those massive volumes, okay? We don't need to be doing those massive volumes right now, okay? So don't just do that because there are races. And like you say, Dev, we saw that when we were running last week. I mean, I saw tons of people running before the race, during the race. I saw people running hill repeats up and down during the race, and I just... Yeah, so there's so many things. Like, stick to your plan, follow that, make sure that you progressively or gradually increasing that volume as we go along. All right. So as an example, if you ran 1 hour 30 last weekend, don't go out now this weekend and run 3 hours 30. Okay, that's a massive jump. You really want to make sure that we're just gradually increasing that. And yeah, very often people are just trying to jump into that because their mates are doing it. Meanwhile, their mates are on a completely different plan. Their mates is training for comrades and you're training for oceans. Those are two very, very different plans. So really just try to make sure that I think the goal here is that we're just gradually progressing. We're not making massive jumps in our volume, and that we're allowing enough recovery time between all of those runs as well.
So look, I'm probably going to be kind of repeating myself here, but and I know you had mentioned it, but just talk us through. You did allude to it. Should you be doing your longest run of your training cycle now? I know you said people are doing towards comrades, and you shouldn't necessarily be doing these long runs. In terms of just that volume and big jumps, are we at that stage yet where we should be doing these massive long runs?
So I think that depends. If you're qualifying, if you're running your qualifier in the next 4 weeks, you probably are. You probably are hitting quite high volumes of mileage. If you have qualified, no. All right. So if you have already qualified, you are not hitting your biggest mileage at the point in time. All right. So your peak comes much later. Okay, so that's where we just have to distinguish between the two. And I know that's going to seem a bit confusing all the time, but so if you are qualifying, you are probably hitting high mileage now. And again, that's where that recovery for you is going to be so key. If you have already qualified, you're still building. You are going to start getting to that longest sort of elements or longest run much later. Okay. And so you really, again, I know we sound like broken records here, but you want to be listening to your body here. Okay. So if you are feeling really tired, and there's a difference, and this is one of the things, Devin, I know when we used to work at the High Performance Center or Assembly at the University of Pretoria. We used to work with academy kids, high school kids, and we're trying to teach them the difference between pain, stiffness, and injury. All right. And I don't think it's good to glorify any of those and to power through any of those, but to understand the difference between a little bit of fatigue, stiffness, so what we'd call DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness, and pain, that becomes quite a key thing. So if you can start to understand that in your body and listen to your body, you could then make some adjustments as we're going along. I wanted to say something else just quickly when we're talking around, running races and building into these volumes. It's also a really good idea, guys, now to be putting in some nutritional practices, okay, for what you want to be doing on race day. And just as another observation from that race we ran as a long run, Dev, I felt like we're the only ones stopping to walk and take in our nutrition. And I mean, I had a couple of comments like, don't walk in running shoes, the usual big comments, but there I am chomping on my bar. And, guys, this is the time in these runs, start practicing all of those things so that you can figure out what is working for you. Okay. But just to go back on that point, listening to your body, making sure that you're not powering through absolute pain or injury, and if we are fatigued, we can adjust a couple of things within the plan.
Shona, I know you speak about, we're trying to recover and we got to listen to our body, and rest days are a big one. And I think you did mention it earlier, and I kind of just want to highlight the point as well, is rest days and the recovery need to be seen as part of your training. As much as we focus on waking up today because my plan says an hour and a half run, I'm going for my hour and a half run. If the plan says rest and recover, you need to rest and recover. That is ticking a box green. And on that note, in terms of sort of other ways of doing it, Shona, cross training is a big one. How do you feel about cross training, and what's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, Dev, excellent point. Thank you. I love cross training. I mean, just personally, I've enjoyed a couple of the triathlons that I've done, bar the swimming. The cycling I really enjoy. So I love cross training as a personal, as a runner, but as a coach, I think it's an excellent way for you to continue to build your aerobic capacity without the load of running, without the impact of running. So remember, because running is cyclic, right? Because it's right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, and it's this constant impact continually, and because of the way our muscles are contracting concentrically and eccentrically, which just means that, there's a lot of damage that happens there with running. When we do cross training that is non-weight bearing, so things like cycling, swimming, perhaps some rowing, ergo, something where you don't have that impact all the time, it's great because we can keep that aerobic capacity going, but without the loads. And so again, if you're feeling really tired or you're really struggling to get out there and run again because the legs are taking some strain, go for a swim, jump on the bike, and keep those sessions really, really easy as well. So you don't have to go and hammer those sessions. They are great to then just take the load off. To take the actual running load off a little bit, not the whole load off, and to help you feel a little bit better. And Dev, the thing you said about the rest days, I love that because, when we talk, people often say, surely my interval sessions are more important than my long runs. No session is more important than the other in your plan, and runners need to start realizing that your rest days are equally as important as those long runs, as those intervals, as those hills, and as your strength.
So yeah, thanks for saying strength, because that's kind of going to bring us onto our next point here. So
this wasn't planned at all, guys.
You're feeding me very well into the next one. Maybe just to touch on the strength training, and I know we've spoken about it, so we've gone into a lot of detail around strength training in the first episode. So please feel free to go back and give that a good listen. There's some really valuable content around the strength training and why it's so important. But I think if we can maybe just reiterate that again, in this phase of our training block and where we should be, where should we be around the strength training component?
Okay, cool. So 2 factors. Let's go. People who have qualified. So let's start there. If you have qualified, it's a great time to be doing your strength work. If you've never done strength training and you've qualified, definitely get involved with some strength training. You can start, with some basic body weight sort of work if you've never done anything before, and don't jump into that too quickly. Much like how you wouldn't, I've told you not to jump and progress too quickly with your long runs. Start small, because if you've never done strength and you decide to go and do 3 sets or of however many rounds, or 3 rounds of how many sets of different exercises, you probably are going to be quite stiff. So I would even start with 1 round of a bunch of different exercises. Next week, go for 2 rounds of those exercises and just build on that slowly, especially if you've done nothing before. Because this is why I think people hate strength training, is because they jump in and they feel like they must be doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Then they get stiff, and then it affects the running, and so they don't want to do it again. So start small. It's really going to be beneficial for you to do that. So if you haven't started strength yet and you've qualified, it's a great time to do strength training. If you haven't qualified and you've got your qualifier coming up and you've never done strength, I would say now is not the time for you to start strength training. All right. We don't want to be doing things too close to race day that are going to, perhaps make us a bit stiff and sore. We don't want to be adding new, nothing new on race day. It's pretty much the same thing with strength. No new strength stuff before your race day as well. And so you would then get your qualifier in, take a week off, and you could probably start with some light strength work after that, in lieu of running even. And in the next block, we still have time for you to start strength training if you've never done it. Of course, if you have done strength work, you can definitely just keep continuing with that. And you probably can, not if you're qualifying, but you probably can just start adding on some loads to make those a little bit heavier. And we can cut back on those things later in the plan as we're getting closer to race day.
I think, Shona, I think sort of your takeaway there as well is it isn't too late to start. So obviously working around whether or not you're still qualifying, especially in the next couple of weeks. But outside of that, if you haven't done strength training, we've still got time to the race, to Oceans Ultra, and it's not too late to get stuck into the strength training. Sean, just maybe if I can just ask sort of around that strength, we talk about this balancing of volume and intensity with recovery, but the one thing people might not have a lot of time, or the legs are feeling a little bit tired, and they think, oh, strength, I really don't like strength. Is it sort of, how do you feel about where strength fits into it? Would you cut one out, cut the run out? Where and how would you kind of balance what takes priority for you?
Yeah, my friends and people I hang out with a lot are, I don't know, they always say that my only answer for everything is strength training, and I know we come from that background, to be honest, but it really is. I don't believe in silver bullets for certain things, but strength training just comes with so many benefits that I would definitely, guys, never sacrifice a rest day for a strength session or a run. Okay, so that would be my first rule, is that those rest days are crucial. That's the first thing. I also would not say sacrifice cross training for strength, because a lot of people go, I don't have time to do strength, but they're doing 2 cross training sessions a day. You definitely have time. We can take one of those cross training sessions out, if not both, depending on how you recover, and make sure that you're adding in a strength session. And I mean, in the past, I've worked with, in particular, I worked with a female athlete who was, I think she was 49 at the time, and struggling to get strength in, and she was running 4 times a week. We took a run away, and this isn't necessarily the case for Oceans Ultra, but I'm just using this to elicit a point. We took a run away, and we made sure that she did 2 strength sessions a week. So she was running 3 times, 2 strength, and she improved her 5K time from 29 minutes to 26 minutes at the age of 49. Okay, so there's just so much value there, guys. So make sure that we're not sacrificing one thing for the other. Yes, we're running an ultra marathon and we have to build the volume, but the strength training aspect of that is really going to help you get up and over those hills in Chappies and Constantia Neck. But of course, do not sacrifice your recovery for any of those.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of tie it all in and round it all off with your final point there of recovery. Just a reminder, guys, our next podcast, the next episode is focused on that recovery week. Recovery week, why it's important, how to go about recovering properly. So make sure you tune into the next episode. And I think that kind of brings us to a wrap on this one. Shona, like a lot of really good content there, a lot of valuable lessons around whether you have or haven't qualified yet. Thanks for your time. I don't know, maybe if you've got any sort of parting shots that you want to fire at us before we go.
Yeah, thanks, Dev. Yeah, just guys, don't panic. Okay, like there's 9 weeks to go. All right. Yes, some of you might be qualifying, but again, don't panic in that either, right? If you've got your qualifier coming up, and we will tap into some pacing strategies and things later in the podcast, just trust your training in that regard. Don't go out too hard. Just don't panic, right? You've done the work, and those of you who have qualified, definitely don't need to panic. You've got 9 weeks. That's just where I want to leave it today, Dev.
Awesome. Thanks, Shona. Again, thank you for your time. Guys, for those of you who are looking to qualify this weekend, good luck. Have a good run. We look forward to hearing how that went. Drop us some comments. And yeah, for the rest of you, happy training. Keep things nice and steady, nice and consistent. And until the next time, take care, everyone. Bye.
Cheers, guys.